What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at the metagame. I often get asked what decks are good, who's winning, etc, etc, etc. So, because the lovely folks over at DTCG Review over on Twitter have made the job very easy, I thought it was time to have a little bit of a look at what is exactly happening in the metagame. Now, do remember at the moment we are still in the middle of the damn panic. That means that we don't have a huge amount of tournament results. We don't have bigger tournaments, etc. So all this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. We would need a real clear and obvious trend to start determining what the best deck was. The good news is we totally do. Now, I am obviously talking about the Japanese metagame here. This is up to and including BT5, the Rise of Omega. Yeah, fine, this is actually going to be our metagame time we turn around in probably October. But you know what? It's a good glimpse of things to come. And frankly, this is looking pretty strict. I mean, we can see it better in graph form, right? If we take a look at the graph, we've basically got like, I think 79 little tournaments here. And if we take a little bit of a look, we've actually got 4 weeks here. So from the 22nd of March, which is when the new set essentially was out, up until the 18th of April, what we see here is 4 weeks. And in all 4 of those weeks, yellow is absolutely crushing. We saw a big spike happening in the 3rd week, and then it came down a little bit. But when I say came down a little bit, instead of being 50% of the winning decks, it came down to about 40% of the winning decks. That is not bad, ladies and gentlemen. To put it very simply, yellow is absolutely crushing. If we just focus on the most recent week, there are 63 tournaments being looked at here, 63 winning decks, and you will notice that the number 1 is actually hybrid. Hybrid is essentially where you're not playing one main color. You'll see that nobody loves black decks. Sorry, it's just not seeing any real success. Same thing with blue. We've then got that middle ground of red and green and purple that are doing all right. And then yellow, which, I mean, if purple was second place between mono decks with 9 and yellow is 17, that should start to break it down for you. Now, we could look at hybrid decks and go, well, hang on a second, Wassy. 18 hybrid decks won, that's actually more than yellow, and you're right. But if we look at the breakdown of hybrid decks, we actually find out that the majority of them were yellow. We had red and black being 3 each, so there is a little bit of hope there for black if you're playing them as a hybrid deck. And then yellow is by far the biggest of them. Oh, look-see there, ladies and gentlemen. Look-see there. And then if we look at the total, and we take hybrid decks out, then yellow ends up in first place with 25, and then you got red with 11 and purple with 10. When I tell you that yellow is crushing the meta, I don't mean, hey, yellow's doing pretty good, or hey, I quite like yellow. I mean, yellow is absolutely over the top crushing the meta. It is absolutely dominating. And the good news is we can go and take a look, and we really are going to be focusing on yellow here because they are the ones that are absolutely dominating. We can go and take a look, and the lovely folks over at DigimonCard.dev, not only have they gone and collected the results for us, but what they've gone and done is basically taken a look at the percentages of decks in which these cards appear. So what we're going to do quickly then is have a look at all of the cards that appear in kind of 75 or more of these winning yellow decks. Look at the cards which are making yellow really good and seeing what we can deduce from them. And I believe we're going in set order here. So we're actually playing some BT1 cards. /Angemon remains a phenomenal option because /Angemon, fine, it's a super weak level 6, but when you Digivolve into it, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 8,000 power for the turn. That is clearly ridiculous in terms of just getting rid of a Digimon. So yeah, that's kind of nice. We also do see that the Tamer is actually seeing a whole bunch of play here as well. TK Takaishi, because, I mean, it's one of those standard ones. If you've got 2 or less memory, you set it to 3 at the beginning of your turn. But when you play it, you look at your security, put a card in your hand, and then trigger recover 1. You basically get to grab a card out of your security. That is a great, great thing. That is being played in 94% of decks. Slash Angemon is 82% of decks, which is clearly quite a lot. One that came around in all of these winning decks that we saw was Turiamon. And this shouldn't really surprise anyone. This is one of those cards where, I mean, it's a 1-cost Digivolve level 4, right? So nobody should be surprised that this is popping up in every yellow deck. And frankly, this is going to keep popping up in every single yellow deck. It's cheap evolution. It's not a game-breaking card. Most decks have these. But this is particularly awesome in terms of, well, just being amazing. Now, Bushiagamon is one that surprised me a little bit in terms of how much play it's seeing. Being played in 82% of decks, and I thought this one was going to be a little bit more occasional tech than staple in every deck. But, like I say, it's popping up in 82% of decks. Now, it's a 5-cost to play normally, which is extremely expensive, though you can Digivolve it, you know, for the standard cost of 0. But it's got Rush, so you can attack with it on the turn that it's played. And it really is as simple as that. Because it gives you an extra attack that your opponent isn't expecting. When your opponent is looking at your deck, trying to figure out, looking at your board and going, right, how many attacks can they do next turn? I've got 3 security, they can only do 3 attacks. Okay, they can get rid of my security, but they can't attack to win the game. And in comes Bushiagamon to win the game. It's a little bit ridiculous. Yeah. Another one that is actually seeing play in every single one of these decks is Pitamon. And again, you shouldn't be surprised by this. Not only is it a 1-cost Digivolve level 4, but it's also a blocker. We've seen these 1-cost blockers coming around in a whole bunch of decks. And you shouldn't be surprised by this because, well, it's 1-cost to Digivolve and blocker. Yeah, sure, you give up 2 memory when you attack. Nobody cares. It's not an attacker. This is a pretty ridiculous card. And we've got 1-cost blockers in other colours, in all the colours, I think, at this stage. And they are all seeing a bunch of play. And you should expect this to carry on as we go. Now, War Growlmon is seeing a whole bunch of play as well. That is popping up in 88% of decks. Because it's got Digiburst 2. That gives one of your opponent's Digimon minus 4,000 power for the turn. I.e., you can either break a power tie, you can bring one of their Digimon below one of your Digimon's power, or you can just delete a 4,000 power or less Digimon, most level 3s, it's redonk. Also, it's got an inheritable skill that if you got 3 or fewer security cards, you gain 1,000 power. That sounds pretty good to me. Jumping just over the arbitrary threshold which I've put out there, Chaosmon Valderarm is coming in 76% of decks. And it's a level 7. And it's a good level 7. But bearing in mind, we don't want to have a Slash Angemon just sitting out there. We love the Digivolution skill on Slash Angemon, but when we've Digivolved into it, we actually want to do something else with it because it's weak and a bit rubbish after it's Digivolved, which makes it a prime candidate to Digivolve into Chaosmon Valderarm. For anyone that's keeping score, this is the only level 7 which is currently available to yellow decks. They don't have any other options. So if you're going to play a level 7, it's kind of got to be this one. So 76% of decks are playing it, and 24% of decks aren't playing a level 7. But when you Digivolve, you twice lower one of your opponent's Digimon by 7,000. Again, the combo there with Slash Angemon is ridiculous. And it's a big level 7, and when it gets deleted, you gain free memory. So you gain memory, you lower power, you combo with Slash Angemon, you've got big power. It's good, right? It's a good level 7. We see 100% of these decks are playing Starmons. And again, this shouldn't really surprise anyone, because when we looked at Starmons, we went, okay, fine, it's a level 3, but it's ridiculous. Because firstly, it's just your average cost level 3, free cost to play, 0 cost to Digivolve. But when you play it, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 1,000 power for each Digimon you have in play. So if you've got 5 Digimon in play, you get to lower them by 5,000 power. And you can see where your average level 7 deck is going. Between this and Slash Angemon and Chaosmon, Valorarm, it's getting, and obviously War Growlmon as well, I suppose I should mention. We are really wrecking without even having to attack, which is ridiculous. We see also that 100% of these winning decks play Knightmon. Now, I'm not saying that every single yellow deck plays them, but I am saying that every single winning deck that was recorded by TCG Review played them. And like I say, we've got a decent sample size here, given the constraints we're working under, and that is fewer tournaments, no big tournaments, etc. When you play it, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 4,000 power for the turn. Gee whiz! That sounds pretty good. Oh yeah, remember this is going to come up in a minute. This is pretty good. We also see that 100% of the winning decks played LordKnightmon. And I think this is the secret. LordKnightmon is borderline broken. And we may well do a video in the next few days, couple of weeks, whatever, about whether this is actually good enough to warrant a ban. LordKnightmon is dominating the metagame in a way that we haven't seen since Omnimon in BT1. LordKnightmon is becoming the best deck in the format, the best card in the format, and it is not even a tiny little bit remotely close. Because when you are attacking, you may play a level 3 Digimon or a yellow Digimon card with Warrior in its type from your hand without paying its memory cost. So you know all those expensive Digimon cards I've been telling you about the whole time that have got really good skills when you play them, like the Bushiagamon that's got Rush, like the Slash Angemon that lowers power, like the Knightmon that lowers power. Well, Slash Angemon and Knightmon just happen to be warriors. So not only do they have the amazing play skills, but you can also play them for free when you attack with LordKnightmon. So you're getting these skills, but it's not just the skills, you're also playing level 5s and 6s for free. Yes, you can use LordKnightmon to play another LordKnightmon for free. Also, for each other Digimon you have in play, you gain 1,000 power. LordKnightmon is over the top ridiculously good, and it is the reason why these decks are absolutely crushing. And if we look at all the cards I've mentioned here, essentially what we've seen is that the vast majority of cards that I have mentioned that are doing really well in yellow are directly supporting LordKnightmon, and the ones that aren't are just generally good for consistency. Now, the only other card that meets my arbitrary threshold of 75% is Unimon, that comes in at 88%, and you'll notice this actually came around initially in the yellow starter deck. It's a blocker. No, it's not as good as Pitamon. Pitamon is better, because it's a 1-cost to Digivolve, but who cares? It's another blocker. You need more blockers, so there we go. Unimon is cheaper to play normally and has more power, but the 1-cost to Digivolve will generally break the tie. It's why Pitamon comes in 100% of decks, and why Unimon only comes in at 88%. I do want to give a shout out to Pulsemon here. Pulsemon actually appears in 71% of decks, which doesn't meet my threshold of 75%, which I said we'd be talking about. But I do find it really interesting here that we've actually got this doing so well. Now, remember, this is a pre-release promo in the UK. It's been a promo on US, Europe, etc. It's been a promo a couple of times in Japan. But when you play it, if you've got 3 or more security cards, you draw a card. If you've got 3 or fewer, you gain a memory. And if you've got exactly 3, you do both. It's clearly a great level 3. I've been telling you all the way along that Pulsemon looks like a great card that is going to see a whole bunch of play, and now it's popping up in 71% of winning decks in by far the best colour in the format. I think that kind of tells you what you need to know. This is not an exhaustive look at exactly why yellow are amazing, but essentially there are two things you need to take away about this video. Number one, yellow decks are the best by a mile, and secondly, it is because of LordKnightmon. There are other yellow decks out there, but let's be perfectly clear, it is LordKnightmon. It is not yellow as a whole has the best support. It is not there are these 3 or 4 yellow decks, all of which are contributing. It is LordKnightmon. Yes, yellow is crushing the meta, but the reason is LordKnightmon very, very clearly. Shout out to the TCG review for collecting the data and doing the hard work so I didn't have to. And yeah, now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me how good you think yellow is going to be. Tell me if you're excited about LordKnightmon in BT5 or kind of dreading it. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.